creating wealth, freedom, and security using real estate investing. This is Get Real Wealthy. You're watching Get Real Wealthy. On this episode, we're going to be talking about building your real estate power team. It's important to build the best power team possible based on your current position, and as you grow, your power team will change. Some members will stay the same, but some members will have to leave and go out. So let's talk about 7 power team members, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail. The first is realtors and brokers. Those are people that are that will come in and come out. Second one are lawyers, paralegals. The third one is bankers, mortgage brokers. Fourth one is home inspectors. Fifth one is appraisers. The sixth one we're going to say is the environmental companies for phase 1 and phase 2. And then the last one we're going to add in there is insurance brokers. So let's start off with realtors and brokers. So those change depending on the type of properties you are buying. If you are buying 1 to 4 unit properties, there will be real estate agents and brokers who focus in that area. I don't suggest that you use a real estate broker who does 1 to 4 unit properties in the 5+ unit range, because the type of contracts they use and the due diligence that you do is very different. It takes a different type of agent. So that agent should change depending on what you're doing. If you're looking at industrial buildings or storage facilities, when we've done our due diligence on storage facilities, you've used different realtors, different agents. So that's something that that will change over time depending on what you're doing. The second power team member are lawyers. Now, I don't want to say anything bad about lawyers because I don't want to get sued, but I gotta tell you that there are very different lawyers out there. Some are good, some are bad, okay? And what you need to do is find lawyers that will work with you on your level. At the very beginning, I had a lawyer that was very good, and he had his own firm, and then he sold it to other firms. But it was like a machine going into I was there at a certain time, all the documents were done, we were out within like 10 or 15 minutes, everything was done, communicated with me through the process, law clerks were on top of everything, very smooth operation. And that's what you want to see. You don't want to see a lot of issues where a lawyer's coming back to you, especially your lawyer's coming back to you at the last minute for documents and things like that. Especially something that you've sent before, and if they're asking for it again, there's a problem with their process. So you got to find the right lawyers to make sure that happens and it carries forward to all your transactions. Also, the lawyers that you're dealing with in residential are going to perhaps be very different than the lawyers who are dealing with commercial properties. Okay, so again, although they're real estate lawyers, what they see and what they're reviewing every day is very different. So your power team member may change out. Mortgage brokers, bankers, again, residential versus commercial, very different. In the residential space, you have a lot of mobile mortgage specialists who work specifically at a bank. You'll have mortgage brokers who just focus on residential, and you'll find that there are perhaps mortgage agents who work under brokers, again, who focus in the residential space. There are mortgage brokers who will tell you, we can do commercial properties because we've done a couple. That's not who you want. You want to find a firm that specifically works on commercial properties. There are a couple around Canada. Everybody seems to know everybody in the commercial space, and those are the brokerages that you would go with who really focus on commercial properties. Because what ends up happening is they can shop around different lenders, they have good relationships across the country. I can get financing on an apartment building in Ontario from a lender who is in British Columbia. Okay, and that comes with the experience of the broker. So your power team member will change over time depending on what you're doing and how big you're financing. Sometimes if you're doing, for example, like a $15 million mortgage, you can go directly to lenders in the commercial space and not have to go through a broker. But other times you need to go through a broker. If you have a relationship specifically with a lender, then you would want to go directly to that lender in the commercial space or in the residential space instead of going through a broker, because that gives you the ability to usually speak from the person who you're dealing with, and that person speaks to the underwriter. If you're dealing with a mortgage agent or broker, what's going to end up happening is they're going to deal with somebody usually in the bank, and then that person in the bank deals with the underwriter, which puts you one step away from that process. It's like a broken telephone. You're giving information, and when it finally gets to the underwriter, it may be different. Okay. The next one that we want to talk about is home inspectors. So home inspectors are great. They are people that will help you to define whether there are issues with the property or not. So that's something that you can do in the 1 to 4 unit space. In the commercial space, you're probably going to do a building condition report, which requires an appraisal company or an inspection company that is a little different. Okay, so those inspectors are going to be very different because they're looking at multiple units. They may have to look at mechanical systems, boiler systems, things like that. That is something that they may not be comfortable with. If you have a good residential appraiser, they may have a contact from like a boiler company. They can come in, do that appraisal or that part of the inspection process, and then look at the house components of it differently. The other person in your power team is an appraiser. An appraiser who works in residential is very different than an appraiser who works in commercial. Again, you're going to move and change depending on the type of appraisal that you need and who that is. Usually there are companies that specify that they work in commercial, and oftentimes the process in commercial is longer than an appraisal in residential. Usually the turnover in getting the appraisal is faster. So you want to be able to see that happen quickly, and if you have an appraiser that takes a long time, you're going to want to shift appraisers. The next power team member is somebody who can do a phase 1. So it's an environmental company that can do phase 1, which is to see if there are any environmental conditions in the property that require you to do some remediation. If you have to do remediation, it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So it's important to have a good phase 1 company to identify any problems. That team member is somebody that you can use in multiple locations. The last one definitely is your insurance broker, insurance agent. That's going to help you to reduce your net operating income and give you the best coverage possible for your apartment buildings and for your 1 to 4 unit properties. They want to make sure that you're going to end up with the best coverage possible for a rental property, including liability coverage. So that includes slip and falls, all of that. You have to have specific insurance policies that deal with rental properties versus a typical residential unit. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when you're considering, what type of insurance person that you're working with. If they just do primary residence type of insurance, it's not the insurance broker that you want to work with, okay? You want to work with somebody who has specific experience doing rental properties. And for apartment buildings, it's usually a different broker that you're going to be working with. All right, I hope that gave you some great tips on working with and how your power team changes over time. We'll see you on the next episode of Get Real Wealthy. If you want to learn more about me and what I'm doing, go to quentindesouza.com, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Make sure to check out getrealwealthy.com. Until next time, I'm Quentin D'Souza. Get out there and take action. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for information purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, go to getrealwealthy.com.